Morning. It is my late shift at work today, which means I can get out and go for a run, despite though the weather is awful. It is storming out there, but we're going to try and do another weird layering video. If you haven't seen this before, essentially I've been rubbing loads of weird things on my arm lately, whether that's been peanut butter, scented foot creams, all sorts of really strange, Marmite, whatever you can think of, probably done it. But we're going to do two more today, and it's these things here. Deep heat and deep freeze. What are deep heat and deep freeze? Well, if you haven't seen these, I've used these quite a lot for sports performance. Essentially, deep heat is exactly that. You basically put it on your skin, it's like a cream, you rub it on, it heats your skin up, it sort of gives a chemical reaction, and that's meant to sort of reduce aches and pains, loosen the muscles if you've got any tightness, and hopefully then prevent your injury feeling any worse if you're doing some exercise. And then deep freeze is kind of exactly the same, it's like an ice. So this is like your heat, this is like your ice, and it says here, scientifically proven cooling and soothing relief for back, shoulder, neck and feet, essentially to relieve minor aches in muscles and joints. And this one, yeah, is just to reduce pains and stiffness. So essentially, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to have one on each arm, and I want to see if one's particularly better than the other. Look, should you be layering these with fragrances? Absolutely not. I'm a bit worried they're going to give you a bit of a chemical sting as well. But my theory is that these are meant to sort of heat your skin up, so hopefully that'll bring the fragrance out more. And of course, getting quite hot running around, I'm hoping this will keep the sort of fragrance locked in a bit more, and it'll cool it down so it doesn't just evaporate off my skin too quickly. Any excuse really, isn't it? But we're going to apply these now, and then I'll apply the fragrance after. The fragrance I'm going to use today is this one here. It's called Smoked Oud. Did a little review on it the other day. Essentially, this is really strong. It's like a really rosy oud, and yeah, it's very synthetic, but I'll be able to detect the difference between this smell and this smell. So what I'm going to do, apply these, just tell you what they roughly smell like, and yeah, just give my overall thoughts on how they feel. Were they aesthetically pleasing on my arm? I already know the answer to that, but at least they are for your skin. We'll put deep heat on first. As you can see, it is this sort of really thick cream. I don't want to put too much out because it's quite thick. But some of the ingredients in it, yeah, menthol, eucalyptus, essentially, yeah, very fresh, minty sort of smell, and it is super strong. Wow, that is gonna, yeah, this will essentially just make you sort of choke. It is so strong. So just be careful if you apply this around people, because they're going to notice I've put far too much on there, by the way. I'm going to apply it there. I'm going to have to grab a tissue for that in a minute. But we'll just let that sit for a second. You've got to really rub it in. And it takes about 10 minutes just for that heat to come in. Right, there's that one. We'll just leave that to sit for a second. And then deep freeze is more like a clear gel from memory. So let's get that. That is so strong. That is burning my eyes. Wow. This one looks a bit like, if anyone remembers like Bonjela for ulcers. See that? It's like a little liquid gel. And that's going to go here. And that's going to feel really cold in comparison. So in terms of smell, do they smell much different? Well, this one smells quite mentholy as well. But it doesn't say it's... Oh, no, it does. So they've both got menthol in. So it just smells like this really fresh, minty sort of smell. But sharp, alcoholic, super alcoholic. So not something you'd want to sort of wear as a fragrance particularly. But my arms start to heat up, and that cooling effect has come in very quickly. Wow. Right, clean these off a little bit, and then we'll apply the fragrances. My arms are cold and burning with heat at the moment. This is not very comfortable, not at all. I'm a bit scared of applying this, but we're going to apply Smoked Oud, and I'm just going to let it sit for 10 minutes while I do my stretching, and I'll give my initial impressions of smell. But that doesn't feel good. That is going to sting with it, you know. Right, but this is pretty strong. Like I said, this has got a strong opening, but it's one of those fragrances where essentially that rosy oud, 2 hours, you'll notice it, you barely get away from it, and then suddenly it just goes. It doesn't linger. I think it's just a pure eau de toilette, and it's got no staying power. It's pretty synthetic. It's a £10 fragrance at the end of the day. So I'm just going to let those dry out for a bit. What's the initial smell anyway? Yeah, so I'm getting that kind of rosy smell. Rose is a very strong note. But that menthol, I can already tell, is starting to sort of think, right, hang on, what's this on top of me? It's almost trying to push it off it. It's trying to push the fragrance away. And on this arm, it's nowhere near as bad with the deep freeze. you can smell much more of the fragrance. At the moment, that cooling effect is the only thing I can feel more than the smell. So we'll give it 5 minutes, do my stretching, and then we'll do an update before I go for my run. Oh, my arms feel really weird. That's got a cold sort of effect. Again, even the deep heat now feels cold, and this does as well. But at least it shows that these creams actually still do their job. Anyway, time to give them a smell. So this is the deep heat. Yeah, look, I'm getting a very, very faint element of the rose in this fragrance, but now the menthol's really kicking through. Deep heat, super, super strong. And at the moment, I feel like it's just going to overpower the fragrance today. It just feels so strong. And as you've seen, it is something that you're meant to rub on your skin to help it absorb into your muscles. So I'm expecting that to not really go away. And I think for that reason, the fragrance is going to really struggle to push through. And then with Deep Freeze, see, that gel is kind of, and I don't know if it's because it's the cooling effect again, it's taken a bit of the edge off the rose, but it's not overpowering this fragrance on this one. You're kind of getting the fragrance, but it's just been tamed down. It's just tamed it more than anything, which is the complete opposite of what I wanted it to do. And now it's burning my nostrils. Wow, that is super strong. So yes, at the moment, those creams, as you expect, they're just so strong. They're overpowering, and they're changing the smell more than anything else. And because they absorb into your skin, obviously I've done other things like peanut butter that don't absorb. Sometimes the fragrance just sits on top. With this one, they don't. And I think that's going to play a big part today. But only one way to find out. We'll do 3 checkpoints on my run. I'll do about 12 miles today. So about every 4 miles, I'll do an update for you, see how it changes. And yeah, if the sweat affects anything being outside, and obviously raining as well. So we'll do that. Hopefully it won't be too windy. And what I'll do, I'll come back, do an indoor test, see how different it smells being indoors. Because sometimes you then warm up, and it's hard to tell outside. And then we'll do a post-shower test before I give my final thoughts. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, it is horrible out here today. But then I feel like I'm saying this at the start of every video at the moment. So, time to smell my arms. What can I detect? So that's the deep heat. And that's the deep freeze. Right, I'm really surprised. So, I am warming up. It's quite warm today. Look, I'm getting a lot of that deep heat smell. That mentholy smell. But the rose has started to come back through again. And I wonder if that's just because my skin is just warming up in general. I thought it was just going to overpower it completely. But it's mixed better than I thought. It's not really like harsh to the point I can't sort of put my nose right next to it now. But the gel from the deep freeze is not, it's just completely, as I said earlier, it's completely tamed the fragrance. And it's almost got this balsamic sort of vinegar smell to it, and it's not very pleasant. And yeah, I can't really get the fragrance at the moment. Again, maybe because it's that cooling effect, maybe that's what's playing a part. But at the moment, the deep heat certainly smells better. But look, do I think the fragrances on their own smell better than this? Yes, absolutely. But I'm just wondering if that heat from it might actually be helping release that fragrance a bit more. And because these do absorb into your skin, maybe that will help. As I said earlier, maybe that'll help bring the fragrance out. But yeah, no chemical sting, nothing like that. And it doesn't feel as unpleasant on my arm, again, because these are meant to be rubbed on your skin. It's not too bad, it's not too sticky. And I think that'll help when I have a shower later. I think it'll keep the fragrance sort of locked into my skin a bit more. So early signs are a bit more positive than I thought, particularly on the deep heat. But yeah, deep freeze at the moment. Don't smell good right now, but it's really picking up and that rain's drawing in. I'll let you know in about half an hour about checkpoint 2, see what we can detect then. Checkpoint 2, it's thankfully stopped raining for now, and the effect of the actual heat and cooling from both the deep heat and deep freeze is definitely worn off now. You know, I wouldn't even really notice there's anything on my arm, but it's obviously about how it smells. Has it changed? Has it brought the fragrance out more? So let's go on to deep heat. And then deep freeze. Okay, right, really interesting. Smoked Oud, I've worn numerous times, and it's always rosy, and I always never really understand where the smoked element comes from it. You know, it hasn't got a burnt smell, it just smells like a very dark rose to me, a little bit like Boss Bottle do, but with that menthol and that very synthetic oud working in combination, and they have blended pretty well now, they're not really too strong either of them, it's really smoky. It is very much smoked rose, not smoked oud, smoked rose. It's like a burnt rose flower, and it's okay, it's okay. It's a bit of a weird combination. I don't really like the smell of burnt florals, but I don't mind that. It's okay. Like I said, the blend is fine. It's not harsh, it's not burning my nostrils. It's 60-70% as strong as it was when I applied it, and it actually smells like a fragrance. There's not particularly one I want to wear, but it's okay. Whereas the other one, and I'll just quickly pull my sleeve up a bit more, just smells of nothing. As I said, it almost has this like paint varnish smell, and it's just not very pleasant, to be honest, but it's only about 30% there, so really interesting. Again, as I said, one's more of a gel and one's more of a cream, but yeah, I have to say, that wind, that is horrible, isn't it? I have to say though, so far Deep Heat is surprising me, and I'm just glad I'm not getting any chemical burn or anything like that. So one more checkpoint on this run if I don't get blown away, and yeah, then we'll be back and I'll see if it sells any different indoors. Okay then, so final checkpoint on my run. Let's smell my arm. Deep Heat. Deep Freeze. Well, okay. Right, I've pulled my sleeve up a bit more on the Deep Freeze one this time, and I start with that one on this occasion, so I can definitely smell it. There's a very, very, very faint mentholy smell, very, very faint, but the fragrance is the thing that's overpowering this, which is great, because that's what you want this to do. Whenever you're like layering anything, if you look at like the molecules 01, 02, you know, they're sort of Ambrox and ISO-E Super, they don't really smell of anything. They're meant to kind of bring the fragrance up. They're almost like the person giving the fragrance the piggyback. And where the deep freeze isn't as strong, it's just like a very soft mentholy smell. It's not really having too much influence on the fragrance. And it does feel, where I pull my sleeve up a bit more, maybe that's where I wasn't smelling it in the right place earlier. It does feel like that one is elevated a bit. That being said, I don't know if it's any stronger than when I've worn this fragrance in general. It's probably just taken a bit of that oody edge off, that skankiness. And it's almost made it a slightly more wearable feminine fragrance rather than this really heavy masculine one. But it's okay, but again, if someone had said to me, oh, you know, you've rubbed your arm with Deep Freeze and put on spray, what's underneath the spray? I wouldn't go, oh, there's anything there. I just think, oh, no, you've just got a fragrance on. Whereas this one, Deep Heat, it's so much more smoky. It's just burnt. So where I said there's no oud on this one smells like really smoky oud. And I said like a burnt flowers sort of smell. Oh, and then at the back there is a bit of that alcoholic smell from it as well. But the fragrance is a little bit alcoholic too, and I just think it's that menthol and that syntheticness that's creating this little bit of a confusing type scent, a smoked, burnt floral scent that it intrigues me. I mean, I keep smelling my arm, but do I think, yeah, I really want to wear that as a fragrance all day and layer my skin with that? Not particularly. I might save it for my tight hamstrings, which certainly I'm feeling today, so I might have to apply it on my legs, minus the fragrance. Anyway, finish this run now, we'll head back and we'll see if it sort of changes when I'm indoors, because it is so windy. Now back, so time to smell my arm. Now I'm inside. So that's the Deep Heat. This one, the Deep Heat one, is lasting really, really well. And I have to say, since I've done these, it's very rare that after a shower I notice it. So I'm really intrigued, because that is still
70% as strong, and it's really actually it's become pleasant. The fragrance, I'm really surprised, it's actually overtaken the deep freeze. I thought this mentholy smell was going to really overtake it, but it feels like the rose and that oudi smell is certainly overtaking that deep heat, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to elevate the fragrance smell, not change the fragrance smell, not certainly make it too unpleasant. Yes, it's still got that smoky vibe, but that does feel like it's wearing off a little bit, and the fragrance now is starting to kick through. But this one, it smells more like the fragrance, a much lighter version of the fragrance. Like this is like the night version, this is the summer flanker of this one. You know, it's just that lighter version. It's very pleasant. But I'm really glad that neither of them are making me sort of think, oh, that's horrible, because again, these are very strong chemicals that are in these creams to loosen muscles and prevent injury. But because they've absorbed really well into the skin, rather than just sitting on the top like a Marmite, I think it's worked better than I expected. So what I'll do my weight, have a shower, and then it'll be about just over 3 hours since I would have applied the fragrance by then. So yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this experiment.
Okay, so it's just gone 10 o'clock. It's time to smell my arms now. I've had a shower. Let's see if I can still smell either the deep freeze or the fragrance and deep heat. Okay, that's the deep heat one. That's deep freeze. Let's just smell them again. Right, to be honest with you, I'm getting very faint smell of the fragrance here. And I did wash my arms really strong with a very faint smoky undertone. So that smoky undertone is still there, but we're now talking about 15–20%. And on this arm, I'm getting again about 10%, 5–10%, and it's really just the fragrance. So that deep freeze didn't really change the fragrance smell today. And it certainly isn't as pungent, you know, it's not as pungent as smell. If you rub that on yourself, I can't imagine anyone really having a big issue with it. As I said, I did a video the other day. There was a darts player that put on a lot of deep heat once, caused a lot of arguments from the other player saying it put him off. This one, though, I don't think would. I don't think deep freeze is that fragrance. But deep heat, yeah, it does definitely change the smell of the fragrance, but it's certainly not overpowering. It wasn't ever too much today. It actually held the fragrance on pretty well, but it has certainly washed off with the shower. And I think that goes back to the fact this isn't a particularly strong fragrance. It's synthetic, it's strong within the opening, but then it just drops off as you'd expect from something that costs about £10. But it didn't do too badly today. I think that deep heat and deep freeze would have overpowered a weaker fragrance. So the one that I did in the car the other day, English Lavender, is not strong at all. I don't think I would have even noticed that with those. So you almost needed a strong fragrance to layer with those creams that are being used obviously to help prevent injury. So that's what I've learned today. Better to use a stronger fragrance if you're layering with obviously stronger undertones. So yeah, not so much something you really want to layer with, because ultimately the whole point of layering is to make a fragrance stronger. And essentially, if you've got a strong cream underneath and I'm saying wear it with a strong fragrance, what's the point? Then you don't need it, because obviously the fragrance will last long enough anyway. So overall, I'd say yes, pleasantly surprised it didn't sting my arms, didn't make my nose sort of feel too uncomfortable after the initial sort of blast, let's say. But yeah, do I recommend doing it? Well, it felt okay, but yeah, you don't need to. Use those things for what they are. Use them for muscle recovery. And of course, you knew that anyway, but I did it because I'm a little bit crazy like that. But I hope you enjoyed that video. I've actually got a couple of sprays of deep heat and deep freeze, which you can maybe try different applications, which I've mentioned before. Maybe an atomizer spray, will that help rather than rubbing it on? But also, I want to do some herbs and spices, so we'll definitely do those ones over the next 2 weeks in the run up to Christmas. Got a little bit of time off at the start of the new year as well, so hopefully we can put some more things into play. But of course, plenty of fitness fragrance reviews to come. Hoping for a parcel to come today as well, so fingers crossed. Finally, I'll get all my new clone fragrances and Yolk Nog. So yeah, thanks for watching today. Catch you later.